Hello and welcome back to the Eiswell Gaming channel for another game review. And just before we get started today, a big thank you. The channel has recently hit 3,600 subscribers, so I wanted to give you all a shout out. The support is greatly appreciated. Today we're looking at the game Nobody Wants to Die. This one released in 2024, so it's one of the newer games that we've actually looked at here. The game was published by Playon, not sure how to pronounce that, but anyway, developed by Critical Hit Games. And if you remember, we recently featured another game by this publisher on the channel, Homefront: The Revolution. As for the developer, it looks like this is actually their first game, and they haven't put anything else out before I started this review. So that means that this is another one that's going to be a little bit of a wild card. All that said, let's take a look at Nobody Wants to Die, so I can hopefully help you to answer the most important question asked on this review series. Is this worth it for you? Let's get into it. Okay, so we've actually got a fairly unique world or setting for the game. It takes place in New York in 2329, but it's another one that has that retro-futurism look and feel to it. I know some people consider retrofuturism cliche or whatever at this point, but I personally still enjoy the style. Anyway, you play as James Kara, who works as a detective in what's called the Mortality Department. Basically, you're going to be investigating murders of the rich and powerful, which have been perpetrated by some unknown serial killer. The twist here? In this world, people are essentially immortal in a way, in that they upload their consciousness into a memory device. That device can then be put in a new body so they can continue on living. If you're familiar with Altered Carbon, it's basically Altered Carbon, but with retrofuturism. Nobody Wants to Die is set in first person. As I said, you're playing as Detective James Kara, and so as you probably expect, as a detective, you're going to be doing investigations. Those are played out by arriving at some location and then using time manipulation and memory reconstruction, as well as a number of other gadgets such as scanning biometric traces or detecting other hidden evidence. And when I say that you arrive at a location, you're not going to be going there manually. This is all done in the background, usually at the end of some other sequence that you chose to leave the area, or you reach a point that triggers some event that Detective Kara will need to leave. Then you just have a loading screen and you're in the new zone. So in other words, I'm getting at this isn't going to be an open world or anything like that. It's a very firmly on the rails game where you just move from location to location in the story. There is a lot of dialogue story progression here. So as you walk around a crime scene and look for evidence, for example, James will typically be speaking to his partner via a communication device as they're going to be located in a remote location.
Yeah, well, that's all well and good, except we're running out of time to figure out how the tree got set on fire. So
as you converse with them, there's going to be choices in the dialogue, and this will alter how the character reacts to James, or may even alter the story. There's some limited puzzle solving and pattern recognition in different zones to find clues or to unlock the restricted areas, but really don't expect these to be too challenging. Now, typically after the investigation of a crime scene, you're going to be heading back to your apartment, and then you just lay out the clues and deduct what happened to determine your next steps. Now, I also do feel it's important to mention there's no combat in this game. It's a story-driven experience. There are a few tense moments, but you're not going to have that fast-paced action that typically breaks up these types of investigation games. As far as what I'm comparing to, I think that the Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments game is a fair comparison. Both games here involve exploring crime scenes, gathering clues, and deducting your answers to see what actually happened. Where these games are going to differ? Well, in Nobody Wants to Die, you're doing more manipulation of the crime scene itself. So what I'm talking about here is moving forward or backward in time in order to see the events as they unfold. When you do this, it's just a really simple mini game that you're going to do with your reconstructor, basically pressing one button or the other or both. In Sherlock Holmes, it was typically a little bit more passive in the crime scenes. You're really just observing things, and you obviously wouldn't have all those gadgets and things. There was also a greater emphasis on NPC interaction, as you did some interrogations that aren't present in this game. Also in Sherlock Holmes, you had a little bit more control over where you visited and what actions you took. Obviously, both games are very linear. However, Nobody Wants to Die feels like it takes it another step further and really locks you on the rails as to where you're going next in the story. So if we want to do another spectrum like I've done on other reviews, you could say that something like LA Noire is on one end of the spectrum. It's another crime scene investigation game, but it gives you some freedom and you choose where you want to go and what to do. There was also some action that breaks up the investigations and the story. Then we could say something like Call of Cthulhu and Sherlock Holmes are in the middle. Cthulhu is going to be a little bit closer to LA Noire, at least in terms of some of the action. Nobody Wants to Die is a heavily scripted experience and is on the opposite end of the spectrum of LA Noire, and Sherlock Holmes would be pretty close to it. So hopefully that gives you some idea of what to expect if you're familiar with any or all of these games. So what keeps this game feeling unique? Well, it's definitely the world building. I know that the concept has been done a couple times in other media, but this is the first time that I can think of that's done basically the Altered Carbon style world and setting in a video game format. The fact that this is a story-driven, combat-free game is also somewhat unique. I've been covering some of these style of games on the channel lately, but the way that this one plays out, it feels like there was supposed to be some kind of action or combat style scenes included. I'm not saying that it definitely needed it just seems like a bit of a unique decision to omit it. Lastly, and probably the most unique in terms of a gameplay feature, is the investigation tools. Being able to reconstruct the scene moving forward and backward in time, it definitely has an interesting twist on the genre. Typically when you have this sort of power in the game, it's a little bit more abstract. For example, you determine what happened from the clues and maybe it plays out and you see what happened. Being able to see actual snippets of what happened and then really manipulate it by moving forward and backward in time, it adds a unique layer to it all. In terms of bugs and performance, I didn't really run into any problems here. As always, that's not to say that you won't, but I didn't, so playing through the whole game without issues is definitely possible. This is where the game really stands out, I think. In my opinion, the game looks amazing. I've seen it described as cyberpunk neo-noir. Basically for me, it looks like Cyberpunk meets BioShock mixed with a classic detective vibe. There is a little bit of diversity of environments, but for the most part, you're going to be in that typical cyberpunk-ish dystopian setting, and oftentimes in crime scenes, so overall, it's going to have a fairly consistent look. Use the gameplay footage here to see if it works for you. As far as sound and dialogue, I would say it's going to be a little bit of a mixed bag. I think the music and soundtrack were perfectly chosen for what the game is and gives you the exact vibe that you're looking for here. Dialogue can sometimes be really good and sometimes extremely cheesy. I felt like James had the most egregious number of cheesy lines, but to be fair, he's also the main character, so you're going to be hearing him quite a lot. The partner, for the most part, seemed pretty good and kept you invested. There are some cheesy lines there as well, but honestly, I didn't think it was too bad. Of course, this is all just my own opinion, so I'll make sure to play some examples of the sound and dialogue so that you can make up your own mind on it.
Stand back. The feds secured the entrance.
Could you?
I'm on it.
You get excited when you do something illegal.
I'm in rehab, so don't tempt me.
Dodge and a hook from below!
Elbow block and a headbutt.
Because it's not a photo.
Oh, wait a minute. Tell me you're joking. I'm begging you.
It turns out I think it is indispensable.
You took physical evidence from the crime scene?
That girl in the hat overshadows more and more of the city, doesn't she?
Sorry?
Or the one from the body auction ad?
I haven't seen it.
How could you not see it? It's on every goddamn corner. I already have a lot of data. I'm going to reconstruct.
James, think again. The reconstructor will try to use your memories because you were there.
It'll be fine, Sarah.
So as with all my reviews, I try to separate the more objective look at the game and my subjective opinions into two separate sections. I know I've given my own personal opinions a little bit here and there, but it's kind of impossible to just avoid it completely in a review. That said, I've mostly tried to stay objective up until this point, and from now on, it's going to be strictly my opinion on it. Also, just a heads up if you're new to the channel, I don't give things a number rating because I don't believe in them. So this part is all just for fun. If you're wondering if you should pick up the game, use the first part of the review where I stay more objective because you have a mind of your own and you can decide for yourself. You don't need me to tell you that you should like it or that you shouldn't like it. And so the question is, did I enjoy the game Nobody Wants to Die?
I kind of like it.
I did, but I think you really need to know what it is, as it's likely not for everyone. So I'm going to start with things that might be turnoffs for people. This is a glorified walking sim. There's no way around it. You walk around and investigate crime scenes, but it's extremely handholdy. It's not really much of an investigation, as you're going to be directed as to what to do next. Honestly, each crime scene that you go into feels like a tutorial all on its own, as it often prompts you as to what to do next, or where to look, or what tool to use. I also mentioned that there's no combat or any real action to break up the investigations or conversations. There's a couple moments near the end, but it's definitely not the same as most games that would just directly put action in between investigations. I was going to try to get through this whole review without mentioning it, but yes, thank Firewatch. It's a walking sim with someone who is located somewhere else, talking to you to keep you company throughout. The mechanic for deductions is also much simpler than other comparable games. There's basically only one way of going through them, and you can just brute force it if you get stuck, just swapping out the clues. The writing and general world building can feel a little bit convoluted at times, but this is really going to be up to the player. So okay, I did say that I enjoyed this, so what's good then? Well, visually the game is just chef's kiss. I love the settings, the environments, the style. It's definitely my thing here. The music is actually really great, and I didn't mind the dialogue, even if it does get kind of cheesy at times. I found the overall story to be pretty good, mostly because I enjoy this concept. So I did compare it to Altered Carbon, and maybe I'm in the minority here, but I really liked the show. Like, it wasn't my favorite, but I thought it was pretty decent. I haven't gotten around to reading the books yet, but I'm guessing I'd probably like those too. And so I like the concept and the way that they envision it here. Now here's the most important part. I like shooters, I like RPGs, I like grand strategy, I like a lot of genres. But I've also found that I like the walking sims with good stories. I'd say that some years ago I really hated this style of game, but as I've gotten older, I've grown to appreciate them for what they are. You need to basically just think of it like a long movie that gets you a little bit more invested by including some interactive element. I don't think that's going to be for everyone, and I get that. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. In the past, it definitely wasn't mine, and really, it's not my favorite style, but I do appreciate them a lot more now. Sometimes I like to be able to just sit down and enjoy a nice, calm experience without having to get all sweaty. Now, one last thing I do think I need to mention. As with basically all of these types of games, this one is very short. It's only going to take you maybe 5-6 hours or so. So if you're okay with those caveats and you enjoy a good detective story, and you like games set in cyberpunk dystopias, then I highly recommend checking this one out. If walking sims aren't your thing, this is probably going to get old pretty quick for you. But then again, it's only a handful of hours long, so whatever. I hope you enjoyed this look at Nobody Wants to Die. If you've already played through the game, please let me know down in the comments if you agreed or disagreed with my own opinions on it. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and also consider subscribing to the channel. Like I've mentioned, we just passed 3,600 subscribers, and that doesn't happen without your support. So I'm super grateful to all of you, and if you're new here, I'd love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today, and until next time, take care.